Begini cara mendulang emas di pertambangan. Mungkin sebagian dari Anda masih bertanya-tanya, bagaimana cara mendulang emas di pertambangan? Padahal orang di desa sudah tidak terlalu asing dengan cara dulang emas, terlebih jika masa kecil Anda dihabiskan di desa. Pasti Anda terlihat salah satu keseruan masa kecil di tepi sungai adalah mendulang emas. Saat itu mungkin Anda tidak benar mendapatkan emas, tetapi kini Anda bisa mendulanginya lagi dan memperoleh hasil yang sepadan. Setelah mengetahui cara dulang emas dengan benar, jika Anda penasaran, Anda perlu menyimak ulasan berikut ini. Cara efektif mendulang emas untuk amatir.
Hey guys, it's Dr. Goldhagen. A lot of you guys are having questions about water flow, so I figured I'd run a commercial operation today with the Goldhog-matic. We've got the UR mats installed under expanded metal and even under some large riffles. But you can see behind me, they're running two 9-horsepower pumps at full throttle. I have to figure out the GPH on this, but I'm guessing at least 20,000 gallons per hour, maybe. I guess. But it's not a huge wide sluice. You're looking at about a 20-inch wide sluice. So that's a lot of water. You can see from behind me, you can see that there's a lot of material going in here. A lot of water, slow, moderate feed rate, decent classification. I think one of the improvements we got to make here is we got to make an improvement on our classification. We still have a lot of rocks, large rocks going down this sluice. And if we're going to be running those large riffles, they're going to catch those larger rocks. So right now what I'm trying to do is figure out a way also a little bit smooth. We're going to put this year they're going to install a trommel up here to help with that classification issue. But today on this load, we just have a lot of heavy rock. This load is full of rocks, river rock, all kinds of heavy oakwood. So we're going to keep running here and see what it looks like today.
Jika Anda pemula, pilih ayakan berbahan plastik karena jauh lebih ringan. Gunakan juga alat berwarna hitam agar lebih mudah mengidentifikasi emas. Mulai mendulang. Cara dulang emas dimulai dengan mengisi ayakan sebanyak 3/4 bagian dengan material tanah dan kerikil. Kemudian rendam ayakan berisi kerikil itu di dalam air. Perhatikan batas air untuk rendaman. Pastikan tepat di bawah permukaan sungai. Lakukan gerakan khas para pendulang emas, yakni gerakan menggoyang ayakan secara teratur. Ternyata arah gerakannya memiliki maksud tersendiri. Gerakan maju mundur dua sisi bertujuan untuk mengangkat konsentrat yang lebih ringan seperti batu dan kerikil. Pastikan gerakan Anda tidak terlalu kuat sehingga isi ayakan tumpah ke dalam sungai. Setelah bebatuan dan kerikil sudah dipisahkan, mulailah mengatur gerakan lembut secara memutar. Proses ini bertujuan untuk melarutkan material halus seperti debu maupun tanah. Lihat pada proses ini, akar-akaran juga mungkin akan naik ke permukaan ayakan. Pada fase ini, pastikan semua kotoran, debu, dan tanah liat disingkirkan dari ayakan. Proses pembersihan konsentrat. Proses ini adalah fase yang mulai berat karena sebagian tenaga Anda sudah terkuras pada fase sebelumnya. Pada proses ini tujuannya adalah membuang pasir yang lebih halus dan juga kerikil halus. Gerakannya sama seperti cara dulang emas yang pertama, hanya saja dengan tenaga yang sangat lembut. Pastikan gerakan Anda membuat air pada permukaan ayakan bergoyang sehingga dapat menggeser material halus dan meningkatkan konsentrat emas pada bagian dasar ayakan. Ulangi terus-menerus gerakan ini hingga material halus benar-benar bersih. Proses pembuangan pasir hitam. Pada proses ini mestinya hanya ada sedikit sekali material yang tertinggal di dalam ayakan. Proses ini masih membutuhkan bantuan air, namun hanya sedikit. Tinggi air yang diperlukan hanya sekitar 2 cm saja. Tujuannya agar pasir hitam terpisah dari konsentrat emas dan mungkin tersambung. Gerakan yang bisa memisahkan keduanya pun cukup mudah. Miringkan ayakan ke salah satu sisi hingga air bergerak ke arah yang sama. Pasir hitam akan terbawa gerakan air tersebut, sedangkan material emas akan tetap diam. Emas yang tertinggal itulah yang akan disimpan atau dikumpulkan. Cara perusahaan pertambangan menghasilkan emas, itulah cara dulang emas yang terlihat sederhana, namun butuh ketelatenan dan keuletan tersendiri. Ulangi semua langkah tersebut sehingga Anda mendapatkan lebih banyak emas. Jika Anda tertarik emas atau pertambangan emas, Anda bisa membaca artikel-artikel atau melihat konten di YouTube di daftar negeri. Terima kasih sobat.
Of course, I left my warm gloves at home, and I got water-filled hands. Hey guys, Doc again, and we're talking about water flow. So take a look behind me. That's a high banker there. We're at a commercial operation today. We're running material, and we're talking about the gold hog mat, high water flow. That's a lot of water. That's what I'm trying to point out. Again, there's a lot of water. But this is a pretty neat operation because we're actually using one stage up top, about 60 inches. Then we're going into a 3-stage sluice. Then we're going into one smaller sluice. Then it all gets kicked out and classified at the end. Now, this particular operation, they also find a lot of emeralds and gems, so they'll actually go through the rocks here and look through that as well, too. Or at least I will. You can see over here, and I'm going to move the camera, they actually go, all their excess water is going into a holding pond. It's a 2-stage holding pond. So, the initial water goes into a holding pond, and it has to drop down and settle into another holding pond. And these holding ponds are actually lined with rubber. So nothing's leaching into the ground, nothing's being lost. It's just a constant recirculation, and it's a lot less water than you might think. I wanted to show you that real quick. See if I can get that turned around for you. So that's a lot less water than you might think for this kind of operation. So what we've got over here is we've got the main pond that comes over, water comes out, drops into a lower second pond over here, feeds into there, then goes in and goes back to the pumps over here, and goes back up into the trough. So it's really not a lot of water for this operation, but it's a great little separation point for all the heavies. Everything's going to come in here, and later they'll even double check and dredge this bottom at some point. They'll dredge it out and run a dredge in here just to double check the gold. Hey guys, we talked about some of the rocks and the material we're running today, but I want to get a close-up of this tail end of this thing. You can see what we're talking about, the amount of rocks we've got in here. And it's beautiful looking stuff, because a lot of this is smooth river rocks. That's what we like to see. We like to see those round, smooth rocks. So that means that they're digging in the right spot. Matter of fact, I'm going to turn the camera right now so you can see it. Hopefully you can see that big old pile over there. But that's the material we're working. So, what's that, about 2 or 3 buckets full? So, we're talking about some decent material here. A lot of these rocks we're looking at are smooth river rocks. That's what we like to see. We like to see those worn river rocks. Just tells us we're on some kind of channel over there, but man, there's a ton of rocks in this material.
Oh. Alright, so what we're panning out here is, we're actually panning out the top. So normally never catch fine gold on it. And we're finding fine gold. This is just one little scoop out of about 5 gallons of concentrates. Here's the amazing thing. Let me get this on there. Here's what we're trying to show. We've got minus 100 gold. Minus 100 gold up in that top section right there and right there of that sluice, that power sluice. Minus 100 is all over a nice little chunk here. But we are finding a bunch of fine gold in the upper section of that powerful sluice. Hey guys, thanks for joining us today, and I hope you had some fun on this little adventure. It's kind of cold. It actually only hit probably into the 40s. Of course, the weatherman was wrong. He said 50s. Typical. But enjoyed it. Just had a good install on the mats. Very short run. But something that was interesting about it was that normally on this third sluice bed down below on that 2-stage is where they normally see most of their gold, fine gold. So that was one of the mats that we attacked first when we went in to actually look for gold, and we found very little in there. So everyone was sort of eyeballing, sort of saying, wait a minute here, we're not seeing any gold. So we said, let's pull one of the very first mats. So that's what we did. We pulled that top mat, and when we pulled the top mat, it was kind of amazing to everyone because not only were we catching coarse gold up there, but we were catching minus 50, minus 100, very fine gold. So it was a good learning experience for everyone, that you can have extremely high water flow. They were even running riffles on top of this. We ran most of the setups with the UR mat, and on top of the UR mat we had expanded metal 1/2 inch, and then we went with their riffles. Even with the classification issues that I think they still have, you definitely need to get it's a newer configuration for them. But I was really happy. The top mat was only about 30 inches long with expanded metal and riffles on it, and it was getting clogged up a lot with heavy rocks, and it still managed to catch all that fine gold up high in the sluice, which is where we wanted to see it. We didn't want to see a bunch of gold, and especially fine gold, way down at the end of the sluice. We wanted to see that gold being caught up higher, and that's exactly where we caught it. So we were real happy with that performance test. So guys, we didn't get to do a cleanup, unfortunately. I wanted to show you a nice pan full of gold, but as you can tell, it's cold. Most of the water cleanup areas were frozen. The pumps were frozen this morning. We couldn't get them to prime. We had to thaw them out. So most of the cleanup areas were also frozen over. You know, we'd love to run some of that stuff through the gold cube and see some of that fine gold, but unfortunately it's just a little bit too cold. And I'm about ready to get inside and get warm. So hope you had some fun. Hope you enjoyed something. We'll take you along. If we go to another one, we'll take you along with us, and maybe you can learn something along with it. Thanks again.